And I'm thinking of, as you said, task-based language teaching, truly communicative approach, and of course, the action-oriented approach, which is exactly what I wanted to ask you. What makes a task truly action-oriented?
To have a context, to have a goal, to have a final mission
Mm-hmm.
that you have to accomplish in a sense, which results usually in a product, an artifact, which can be of different nature, can be written, oral, multimedia,
There is a clear
even
outcome.
just even just with the kids, the little kids, we have had drawings, but these drawings then were used, for example, to create an exhibition.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, I have some on my computer, sorry, but I should, okay, I should quit. Too many things open. Sorry. I mean, because I don't want
Take your time.
to disappear. Yeah. All of a sudden, something disappears.
No,
Won't be.
that's what
Okay.
Andrew's editing knife is for, so it's all good. Yeah.
I'm just making a
Yeah.
note. I try my best.
You do
Yeah.
a great job.
So the idea of having different, the task should not be out of the
Mhm.
blue, and it should be part of a bigger scenario. It should be there could be in a scenario multiple tasks all the way to a culminating task. Is this idea, one of the concept of complexity theory is fractals, that we see self-similarity at the different levels. So if we want them to be in a task, we need, in the final task, we need to work in a way. We can't work in a totally different way, and then all of a sudden comes the task, and we expect them to be successful. So there are tasks that are smaller, not broad in scope, but that prepare already the students to work in that way. And there are phases where there's all the time to systematize, to reflect on linguistic aspects, because one of the fears of some teachers is, yes, but if I work with a scenario, where is the grammar? The grammar is there, but it's the one you need, and not the driving force. And you can get back and say, okay, why do we need to say this in this way? What is that? Can even have some form of exercising, because the driving force is this journey towards being able to accomplish our mission, which is
I love
Right.
personified in the final task, basically.
I love what you
One,
said. Sorry, Andrew,
yeah.
because I was
No,
thinking
no.
about this. I love what you said earlier in the conversation, which I think it's really important for us to reinforce this message, which is even little children know that they're doing something that will eventually lead to a specific goal, or something that just means I'm just going to do this just because the teacher asked me to do, which is very much what we do when we use lessons, when we use a presentation practice production approach, where the only goal there is to practice the grammatical structure of the day. None of that leads into anything bigger. And I think what I really like, because when I was reading about the action-oriented approach, I could see a lot of similarities with task-based language teaching and strong communicative language teaching. And what I'm seeing in action-oriented tasks is it builds on that strong communicative approach, specifically because all of these tasks do involve learners in meaningful communication, in mediation, and they're accomplishing these action-oriented tasks. And as you said, Enrica, all of them require knowledge of the language. Of course, they have to use grammar. They have to communicate. They have to use vocabulary. They have to pronounce certain words correctly. If a word is not understood correctly, then there is going to be some mediation because they have to negotiate meaning. And what I'm seeing here is, and I think it's Saussure, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correct, but it's the les actes de parole, like the acts of speech. And what I'm seeing here with action-oriented is that each of these tasks in action-oriented approach involve these acts of speech, right? They sometimes
Sure.
in one task they have to offer an apology, they have to
Mhm.
compliment, they have to do some sort of refusal. So the functions are somewhat embedded, but they're not taught
Yeah.
as from an atomistic perspective. Is that
Mhm.
basically it?
Yeah. Yeah. Tried now. With I say we because I've been in their work, but the authors are three colleagues from three different Canadian universities teaching French to try and create a textbook based on the action-oriented
Mm.
approach. It's called Le Français en Action.
Oh.
And there was it was a learning curve for everybody because it's something new. Um, and the idea is really to have this kind of coherence
Mm-hmm.
and to, at the same time to that can be used with the constraints that instructors have, like short time, they have to teach a certain items because that's the fear, and it's a very real, understandable fear
Mm-hmm.
that the teachers have. I've done a retreat in Halifax last Friday at Dalhousie University. The the professors and instructors of languages have wanted to know more about plurilingualism and action oriented and trying to do that. And we had some presentation and some hands on activities. And the question that is a real question is, but we also have so little time
Mm-hmm.
to do certain things. And this is discouraging sometimes because when I tell you, yeah, but to do a scenario, you can't do that in an hour. You need 6 or 7 hours. I don't know. And they kind of panic because they say we have a short time. But you still can. That's what we tried to do with this book, saying that if you go in the same, if everything is related and coherent, then you can, even with a relative time, of course, sometimes they give them unrealistic time and goal, like you have to bring the students to that level with 20 hours, which is totally crazy. It can't make
Mm-hmm.
miracles, can't do miracles, but it can, if there is a reasonable time, even you can adapt and you can work in an oriented
Yeah.
approach. Because it builds, it's like little bricks that little by little build on each other. And the students, when they enter in this dynamic, in this new perspective, they also contribute a lot. It's not that every time you have to start and explain from the beginning. Once they understand the
Yeah.
system, the way, then
Exactly.
the initiative
Exactly. I
even.
also think that this is the issue too, is that whenever we try to switch to a more communicative, whenever we try to switch to a more task-based or action-oriented approach, students often struggle because they are coming from years of traditional instruction where all they did in the classroom, or perhaps not all they did, but what their ability to produce language is based on their ability to complete grammar quizzes. For example, I can conjugate the verb
Mhm.
to be in gap fills using Raymond Murphy's English Grammar News. That's the ability that I can
Yeah.
have, as opposed to
Yeah.
I can ask for details about a product when I go to an electronics store and ask if I can place this on hold, which is a much more action oriented um, task. I guess that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
exactly. Could be inside a scenario. This could be one of the
Yeah.
tasks that
Yeah.
then build up to a final
Yeah.
task. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm just curious because you also mentioned agency earlier on, and I'm
Mm.
just wondering what role does agency play? Because it sounds like in this approach that teachers are giving up a lot of control that you mentioned earlier.
In a sense, a little bit they are, but not in a negative way, like not neglecting for the students' agency. I think that this is a core point. Students are not necessarily given enough agency, and that this way they don't develop it because they're never asked to use
Teachers
it.
doing all the work.
Yeah, teachers doing all the work, and sometimes my image blocks. I don't know why. I don't know. Sorry
That's
about
okay.
all that. But yeah. So yeah, agency is something you need to develop as everything else, I would say.
And I really love what you just said earlier on, which was that the teachers think, oh, or people imagine, or they maybe pair task-based language teaching or more kind or a action-oriented approach with, oh, it'll just be, if I'm not teaching them, telling them stuff, then they won't be learning anything. Like this whole idea of, unless I'm doing it with them, no learning's taking
Yeah,
place. And I think that this is very healthy because it's as you suggest, it's seeing agency as a good thing, as letting the learners make choices about how it is they want to go about asking for that
yeah,
refund, and then guiding them from the
exactly.
side is what I'm hearing. Yeah.